Hi everyone, I'm Walnut and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. I just wanted to show a few battles I had when trying to get back to the top 1000. The only change made to the team is I made Garchomp Jolly again, but not max speed. It hits 157 and all the extra EVs are just in special defense, so enough to outspeed Lilycole when under Tailwind or if Sand is up. Though I don't think I needed the extra 2 points since I just wanted to outspeed Booster Speed Iron Bundle when in Tailwind. I find that I'm not worried at all about Lilycole with my Flutter Mane and Talonflame, so I could have gone some more points in special defense, but otherwise the team is the same. I'm still not sure what my matchup into Glamora Dondozo is, or if I even have one, but I wouldn't mind facing it for a learning experience. Pokepaste, rental code, and timestamps for the battles will be in the description below, and if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you left a like or subscribe to the channel. But without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm going to be skipping one battle because it was another Lycanroc Tyranitar Flutter Mane Iron Bundle in DD Armrouge team, which I've already beat twice on the channel already, and I won once again. My first opponent is using Flutter Mane, Torkoal, Lilligant, Great Tusk, Dragonite, and Kingambit. My opponent's team looks like the one that Semper used to win the Vancouver Regionals, so I have some idea of the sets here. Like I said, I don't feel too worried about Lilycole because of my Talonflame Flutter Mane lead. Whenever I play Lilycole, for some reason they lead that into my team, which I don't think is the best lead, honestly. But I don't mind facing it. I can just go for a Tailwind Protect turn 1, just in case they go for a Sleep Powder. And then turn 2 I can go for a Taunt and a Shadow Ball into the Torkoal. But just in case they bring Sun, I'm also going to be bringing the Tyranitar in the back so I can change the weather if I need to. I think one of the Pokemon I'm most worried about facing is going to be the Kingambit, so I'm also going to bring Garchomp here. Kingambit on their team is Terra Fire, so Earthquake would always be super effective against it if it is the same set. I might bring Iron Bundle to this matchup if I had Hydro Pump, which was used on the Charlotte regional winning team, which was a great Tusk team, so I could consider that switch as well. I don't really see myself bringing Gothitelle here though. The Fake Out might be nice, but otherwise I don't see myself getting too much value. I could trap like most of their Pokemon, but I just didn't know what I would do with the trap. My opponent's going to be leading the Dragonite and the Flutter Mane here. So it's not the Lilycole, which is good on them. Their Flutter Mane should be Choice Specs with Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Power Gem, and the Dragonite should be the Lumberry with Terra Flying, Terra Blast, E-Speed, Ice Spinner, and Protect. I expect them to go for a Terra Flying, Terra Blast into my Flutter Mane, and maybe a Power Gem into my Talonflame this turn, so Dazzling Gleam wouldn't even deal that much damage to them, since they have the Terra Flying to avoid super effective damage, and the Flutter Mane has pretty good special defense. If I went for a Shadow Ball, I could catch their Flutter Mane since they can't go for a Protect or anything like that, but they could also switch to Kingambit, so I thought I would just go for a double switch here instead. My Garchomp can eat a Power Gem, and since it's Choice Specs, I don't have to worry about a Fairy move next turn, and Tyranitar can definitely eat a Terra Flying Terra Blast. Additionally, when my Tyranitar switches in, it'll set up the Sand, breaking the Dragonite's multi-skill at the end of the turn. My opponent decides to commit the Terra on turn 1. It's going to be onto the Dragonite, and it is the Terra Flying, so everything is what I expect so far. Flutter Mane is going for a Shadow Ball instead of the Power Gem that I expected, but Tyranitar can definitely eat a Shadow Ball. The Dragonite's going for a Terra Blast, and if the Shadow Ball was aimed at the Flutter Mane, I can guess where this Terra Blast is aimed. Garchomp takes it, but not too well. Any other hit that they go for should knock it out, honestly. So the Flutter Mane should be locked into Shadow Ball now, and the Dragonite doesn't really have any moves to hit my Tyranitar super effectively, so the Tyranitar slot is pretty safe here. I'm going to go for a Protect and Rock Slide. The Garchomp doesn't really want to go for an attack this turn because any damage that they do go for would be into the Garchomp most likely and could get the KO. Rock Slide would deal decent damage to both my opponents. They could go for a switch and a protect this turn, but I don't think there's too much I can do because that Garchomp slot is so vulnerable. I don't want to switch and let one of my Pokemon in the back get hurt, so I'm just going to go for a protect this turn. They're going to be switching out the Flutter Mane here and sending in the Great Tusk, which can definitely eat a Rock Slide pretty well. Great Tusk has great defense. And so does the Dragonite, because it goes for a protect this turn, so it's not going to be taking any damage from this Rock Slide. So we do hit the Great Tusk for a little bit of damage, but it doesn't matter because it's not Focus Sash. This Great Tusk should be the Choice Scarf set with Headlong Rush, Close Combat, Earthquake, and Rock Slide. I think the Great Tusk is going to go after my Tyranitar here because I'm not worried about the Dragonite hitting my Tyranitar. I'm going to go for a Terra Flying just in case. This would allow the Dragonite to hit me super effectively with Ice Spinner, but I think the Dragonite's going to be targeting the Garchomp slot this turn. It would be interesting if they just doubled my Tyranitar to cover for it, but the Garchomp took a little bit too much damage with the Terra Blast, so I don't really think I can use it too much longer. I'm going to go for a Rock Slide and try to get a flinch, though I kind of hope that Garchomp just faints this turn so I can just bring in Talonflame or something else. Great Tusk goes for the Headlong Rush, but it zips right under our Terraflying Tyranitar because we are now immune. They are probably trying to cover for a Flutter Mane switch. And the Dragonite luckily flinches to the Rock Slide, so I don't know if it went for the Ice Spinner into Tyranitar. That would be the smart play from them. The Ice Spinner into my Garchomp would be kind of good for me, honestly. And the Terra Blast does a ton to the Great Tusk. So I know that Great Tusk gives Choice Scarf because they outsped my Garchomp, so my Tyranitar is always safe this turn, at least from the Great Tusk. The Dragonite could go for an Ice Spinner, but I don't think it'll do enough damage to KO Tyranitar, so I'm not too worried about it. Garchomp's going to be switching to the Talonflame just in case they decide to go for another Headlong Rush into that slot, though I probably should have just protected instead. I thought another Terra Blast into Great Tusk would be good, but instead I'm going to go for a Brick Break. I think Brick Break will get the KO anyways, and I expect the last Pokemon on their team to be the King Gambit, which could switch in here, expecting a Rock Slide or a Terra Blast, and would be able to take it very well. But it won't be able to take the Brick Break that well, so this will be able to cover for that switch. And my opponent does switch the Great Tusk. If it's the Flutter Mane, I won't be doing any damage. But he sacrifices the king. We switch out Garchomp this turn. I probably should have just went for a Protect instead, because I sent in the Talonflame and there is still some Sandstorm left, so we're going to break our Gale Wings that we were preserving. Dragonite just goes for Protect this turn, which is really good because we're not going to take an Ice Spinner. And Brick Break is going to destroy this King Gambit. It's not going to get the KO though, because I need Low Kick to get the KO, and unfortunately I switched to Brick Break to deal with screens a little bit better, but that's still a ton of damage into the King Gambit. This next turn, I could see my opponent doubling my Tyranitar here with Sucker Punch and Ice Spinner. Unfortunately, that sand did break my Gale Wing, so I can't go for the Brave Bird into King Gambit first to pick up the KO, but I'm going to just sacrifice Garchomp here. It was mostly for the King Gambit anyways, and the King Gambit's at like 1 HP, so unless they Giga Read me and go for a Sucker Punch Extreme Speed into my Talonflame, this play should be pretty good. But sorry Garchomp, you're going to have to go down, so Tyranitar is a little bit safer here. Looks like they did go for the Sucker Punch into the Garchomp slot, but this Brave Bird is going to pick up their King Gambit. We don't have to worry about that Pokemon anymore. Though I think one of the bigger threats on their team is going to be that Great Tusk in the end. Even with Tailwind up, my Tyranitar won't outspeed it, and the Garchomp that would outspeed it is about to faint to this Ice Spinner right here. So I think I could have considered preserving the Garchomp as well, that way it would have a more reliable answer into the Great Tusk in the end game, if that's what I'm going to have to face. I'm going to be sending in the Flutter Mane here though, because I do expect the Great Tusk to be coming in next, and the Rock Slide is pretty good for them there if I send in the Tyranitar. So I'm going to send in the Flutter Mane first. I thought about going for a Tailwind and a Protect here because I was scared of a Headlong Rush, but the Headlong Rush is risky because they are choice locked, and Rock Slide KOing my Talonflame would probably lose me the game if I just protected with the Flutter Mane, so I'm going to go for a Tailwind Dazzling Gleam. Rock Slide shouldn't KO my Flutter Mane here. The flinch would be pretty devastating, but as long as we are able to get the attack off, we should KO the Great Tusk and the Dragonite. Great Tusk goes for the Rock Slide, but actually misses the Talonflame, which is pretty huge. We're going to be able to get the Tailwind off. I would have rather the Flutter Mane dodge the Rock Slide, but I'll take it. But Flutter Mane flinches, so we're not able to get the KO on both my opponents. Dragonite's going to go for a Terra Blast here, and it's going to pick up the Flutter Mane. So if they got the Rock Slide on the Talonflame and the flinch, I think they immediately win the game, but luckily we at least get the Tailwind off. So the Brave Bird here should KO the Great Tusk, and I think a Terra Blast will finish off the Dragonite, but I'm not exactly sure. I thought about going for a Rock Slide, but I really didn't want it to miss, so instead I just went for the Terra Blast. It should KO unless they have like a ton of bulk investment, which I don't think this team had. And I think this Dragonite has a little bit of speed at least because it does outspeed my Tyranitar. So now that we're down to these last few Pokemon, there's not too many options that I can go for. I basically have to Brave Bird with Talonflame into the Great Tusk, and it's either I Rock Slide into the Dragonite or go for a Terra Blast. I think Terra Blast will do enough damage, so I'm just going to go for that. The Dragonite on their side is going to protect this turn, which means I'm not going to have the potential 2v1 in the endgame. It's probably going to be 2v2, because we're going to be able to take out the Great Tusk here. Their last Pokemon is going to be the Flutter Mane, so this is going to be a close battle. We take a little bit of recoil, of course. And we're also going to be taking some Sand Chip on the Talonflame, so our HP is just whittling down. So Flutter Mane's going to come in here. So luckily both my Pokemon are still relatively healthy after all that Sand Chip. I'm going to go for a Brave Bird into the Flutter Mane and then a Terra Blast into the Dragonite. I have my Tailwind up so Tyranitar will outspeed the Dragonite. After that last turn of Sand Chip, they should definitely be low enough to Fate now to the Terra Blast, but I don't think the Flutter Mane can deal enough damage to both my Pokemon, even if it survives the Brave Bird. So I'm going to go for the Terra Blast to guarantee the KO on Dragonite. I don't expect Brave Bird to get the KO, but it should do a good amount of damage. Dragonite's going to go for an E-Speed. Brave Bird's going to come out and deal a lot to the Flutter Mane. Tyranitar's Terra Blast is enough to pick up the KO on Dragonite. But based on my HP on the Talonflame, even if they KO'd the Tyranitar here, I would be safe because I can survive the Sand Chip and then just go for a Brave Bird the following turn. But we're able to survive the Power Gem from their Flutter Mane, so now I just gotta click the 100% accurate moves and win. I think my play is a little bit risky that turn if they go for a Double Protect, but you know, Double Protect does have a pretty low chance of going off, so that's a risk for them as well. If they get the Double Protect off, then they can go for an Extreme Speed into my Tyranitar the next turn, and then I don't know if Talonflame can deal enough damage to win the game there. So I probably should have just went for the Rock Slide instead to cover for another Protect. But I didn't want to miss, and the Double Protect chance is pretty low, so this battle was extremely tricky, and luckily we won in the end. I preserved Talonflame for the middle of the battle, which I think helped me a lot versus the Scarf Great Tusk, but I still ended up breaking the Yeo Wings anyways, so I feel like I probably should have just left the Garchomp in and went for a Protect that turn, and then see if it fainted the following turn. I think this battle could have gone either way with some of the luck involved, but that's just the game we played. They got a miss, we both got some flinches, but I also tried to go for the 100% accurate moves when possible. I probably should have considered the Iron Bundle here, maybe over the Garchomp slot. The Tyranitar could probably handle the King Gambit, especially if I got a burn off, and the Iron Bundle would really help with the speed control against the Great Tusk. With that win, we're able to return to the top 1000, so now I'm just going to be playing until I lose. My next opponent's team looks like your usual Talon Tusk Flutter Bundle core, but it also has Torkoal and the Roaring Moon. Torkoal's able to set up Sun for the photosynthesis boost, and Roaring Moon's able to take advantage of that. The opposing Flutter Mains can be a little bit scary for me to face because I feel like I rely pretty heavily on outspeeding my opponent, and some of their Pokemon are really fast, so I'm going to be bringing my fastest lead, the Talonflame and the Iron Bundle. This can allow me to slow my opponents and let me get speed control, then my Tyranitar and Fluttermane in the back should be able to clean up. I really wasn't that confident in my lead though because Talonflame and Iron Bundle don't really threaten that much damage, and it's a bit hard to switch in the Fluttermane unless something faints first, so I'm kind of relying a bit on that. I thought about going for a Trick Room mode here, which honestly might work out. However, I didn't know the exact speed investment of their Pokemon, so I didn't feel too confident going for that. I think Gothitelle and Tyranitar would probably work in the lead though, so that could have been another route to consider. I think Gothitelle Tyranitar has a pretty good matchup into most of my opponents, and then I can trap them and take them out. My opponent's going to be leading the Great Tusk and the Talonflame, which I guess my Iron Bundle and Talonflame are actually pretty happy to see because they can actually threaten damage versus this guy. I kind of instantly saw a way to get a KO onto the Great Tusk. If I went for a Brave Bird and then a Freeze Dry or even an Icy Wind, the Great Tusk should faint and then the Tailwind from their side doesn't really matter, I guess, at least until the next turn. But since I don't really know if my opponent sees that or not, I wasn't sure if they would just go for Protect and Tailwind. So I decided to just go for an Encore into the Talonflame to lock it into the Tailwind, and then with the Talonflame I just went for a Tailwind anyways to get it set up. Just in case they go for a Rock Slide or something to KO my Talonflame, I do want the Tailwind up just so my Pokemon in the back might have a chance to keep up with my opponents. Also, I should use my PP ups on my Encores because I've definitely run out of Encores in some battles before. My opponent's not going to go for Protect though, and it's going to be a Tailwind from their Talonflame, so there's definitely an attack coming from the Great Tusk. I also set up my own Tailwind, and I'm going to be locking their Talonflame into Tailwind, so I at least don't have to worry about an attack from that slot next turn. And Great Tusk is going to go for a close combat. I could have went Terra Ghost on Iron Bundle to dodge that, but I was a little bit scared of a Headlong Rush. Turns out Headlong Rush doesn't OHKO Iron Bundle, so I think Terra Ghost actually would have been really nice there. Alright, since we got Iron Bundle KO'd, I'm going to be sending in the Fluttermane next. Tyranitar doesn't outspeed their Great Tusk, so I'd rather have Fluttermane here. We know the Talonflame's not going to do anything this turn, so I don't have to worry about that slot. I'm just going to go for a Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam and then a Brave Bird onto the Great Tusk. This will KO the Great Tusk unless they go for a Protect, and a Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam is going to hurt whatever switches in. And here comes Iron Bundle. Looks like we're just going to trade Iron Bundles because a Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam will pick up the KO because it's not Focus Sash. If I was really predicting the Protect, I could have just went for a Brave Bird and then a normal Dazzling Gleam into the Iron Bundle, and I think that would get the KO. That way I'm also able to preserve my Terra, but I'm fine going for this as well. I really wanted to cover that Great Tusk slot just so my Tyranitar in the back is a lot safer. They go for a Protect on the Great Tusk, so they're not going to be taking any damage on that slot this turn. They're probably just going to be sacking the Iron Bundle to get someone else in. And this Dazzling Gleam is going to do a ton. It all depends on who my opponent is sending in next. and it's going to be the Roaring Moon. So we traded our iron bundles, and now we got our attackers in. I think the obvious play for them is to switch the Great Tusk and then Terra the Roaring Moon, and then attack my Fluttermane. They could go for like a Terra Flying Acrobatics, and I think that'd pick up the KO. Honestly, I thought it was fine to just go for the Dazzling Gleam Brave Bird anyways, just to get some damage off. I overthought my play a little bit earlier and got mildly punished, so maybe I'll just stick with the damaging play here. I think my Tyranitar in the back will be able to KO the Roaring Moon, and I just really want to cover that Great Tusk slot, since I want to be able to be more comfortable with the Tyranitar in the back. They are going to switch the Great Tusk here. And it's into the Fluttermane, so they're not going to be taking too much damage from this Dazzling Gleam, though it should still deal a decent amount because I am Terra Fairy, modest, max special attack, with a Life Orb. And Roaring Moon is going to Terra Fire, so that thing's going to take it way better than if it was Terra Flying. Terra Fire makes sense because if they have the Sun Boost with Torkoal, Terra Fire, Terra Blast is going to deal so much damage. Brave Bird does half to the Talonflame, and Dazzling Gleam barely misses the KO. Which is pretty unfortunate because now they have the opportunity to Will-O-Wisp my Tyranitar. Terra Blast will definitely kill my Fluttermane though, so RIP Fluttermane, you did a good job though. Yeah, you could have done a better job if you KO'd the Talonflame, but maybe that's on me. Maybe if I went for a Moonblast or a Shadow Ball instead, that would have been more reliable. Tyranitar is going to come on in. The Sand Chip would KO the Talonflame here, but like I said, I don't want my Tyranitar to get wisped. I could go for a Taunt into their Talonflame and let it faint to the sand, but I'm just going to go for a Brave Bird with my Talonflame instead. I need to win the speed tie anyways, and I'm only taking 1 point of recoil, so it doesn't really matter. Tyranitar is going to go for a Rock Slide here into the Roaring Moon. I think it'll do enough damage to pick up the KO, as long as I don't get burned at least. Luckily we win the speed tie and are able to KO the Talonflame before they can Will-O-Wisp or Brave Bird my team. And Roaring Moon is going for a Breaking Swipe. It's going to drop the attack of my Tyranitar, but not my Talonflame because I have that Covert Cloak. But even at -1, this Rock Slide still does a ton of damage and KOs the Roaring Moon. My opponent could still win from this position. If I go for a Brave Bird and an Assurance, they could KO my Talonflame with Close Combat, maybe survive the Assurance and win. And I could go for a Will-O-Wisp as well to take the Close Combat better, but if they KO my Tyranitar, then I think I just lose anyways because I don't think my Talonflame has enough damage to KO the Great Tusk, even if it was burned. I don't think there's a point in going for a Tailwind to let Tyranitar get off an attack since the Tyranitar's damage isn't the greatest. So we're just going to go for a Brave Bird Assurance, and I hope it KOs, though I think I might need a crit or something. I think Assurance is actually not the right play to go for on Tyranitar, and I think I should actually just go for the special Terra Blast. Since I'm at -1 attack and Great Tusk has really low special defense, I think Terra Blast actually would do more damage than the Assurance. So, Talonflame's Brave Bird goes off into the Great Tusk. It doesn't do much more than half, which is less than I was expecting honestly, but the Great Tusk goes for the Close Combat into the Tyranitar, so we should guarantee win the game from here. I could just go for another Brave Bird the next turn, and even if I faint to the recoil, as long as I KO the Great Tusk, I should win. Additionally, we do have enough HP that we can take another turn or two of Sand Chip, so we'll be fine here. They took a lot less damage than I thought they would, so if they KO'd my Talonflame, I don't think Assurance would ever KO the Great Tusk, so luckily they went for the Tyranitar there. I think I got off to a pretty bad start in this battle, so maybe I should have just went for a Brave Bird Freeze Dry, but I potentially lose out on Tailwind, which could put me in a bad position for the rest of the battle. I could also hit a Terra Ghost on turn 1, but at the time I was scared of the Headlong Rush, but that doesn't KO, so I should have considered it. I think a Terra Ghost and then a second Encore into the Great Tusk turn 2 might be super nice. And honestly, if I had the Gothitelle on the team, If I switch it in on turn 1 while I encored the Talonflame and then turn 2 I encore the Great Tusk, then I have a nasty trap where I basically get 2 of my Pokemon, or I basically get 2 of my opponents for my Terra, which is pretty worth. This team has a lot of fun stuff to play with, and I don't think I've fully explored it yet, so that's why I'm still using this team even after all this time. I think the turn where I went for the Dazzling Gleam and Brave Bird was a little bit lazy on my end. If I expected the Terra and the attack and then also the switch on the Great Tusk slot, I could have just went into the Tyranitar and gotten some damage off there. Even if they get some Breaking Swipes off or a Will-O-Wisp, I think I can just get some chip off and be fine. But GG's to my opponent, that was still a really close battle. My next opponent has Murkrow, Great Tusk, Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, Indeedee, and Armarouge. I honestly hate going against Murkrow because Quash is always something I have in the back of my mind that I'm worried about, so that always makes me second guess my plays. I think the Psy Spam on their team won't be the Trick Room mode at least because of how fast the rest of their team is. The Iron Bundle also allows for a Weakness Policy Weak Armor strat, which I think they could go for. I want to be leading the Talonflame and Fluttermane. I think it's pretty fine into most of my opponent's leads. It's good into the Bundle Fluttermane, good into the Bundle Armarouge, and it's probably fine into the Murkrow Great Tusk. In the back, I brought Tyranitar for the Psy Spam just in case, and I think it has a pretty good matchup into their team, especially if I go for Terra Flying against the Great Tusk. And Iron Bundle might be nice for some speed control versus their Fluttermane, and it does good damage into the Great Tusk and Murkrow as well. I didn't really consider Gothitelle in this battle since I don't think my opponents are going to be running Trick Room at all. Psychic Terrain would prevent Fake Out, and Prankster Taunt would shut down my Gothitelle. I also didn't bring Garchomp here because I feel like I rely on the Talonflame, Fluttermane, Iron Bundle Garchomp for a little too much, and I just wanted to try using Iron Bundle here. My opponent's going to be leading the Murkrow and the Great Tusk. I honestly hate facing this lead because Quash Headlong Rush always just scares me, and I swear I faced this lead before. Last time I think I taunted the Murkrow and protected the Fluttermane while they went for the Tailwind Rock Slide. This time I'm going to go for a Tailwind but still protect the Fluttermane. This way I at least get the Tailwind up, so if they go for the Rock Slide I'll still have that, but I'll protect just in case they go for a Quash Headlong Rush. But they're going to be going for the Terra here, and it's going to be on the Great Tusk. I swear it was a Terra Steel the last time I faced this too, so maybe I need to just learn from my mistakes. I guess I haven't learned too much, but at least I went for the Tailwind this time and not just the taunt. Fluttermane's going to be protecting. But if they go for the Rock Slide here, this Talonflame is going down. And it is the Rock Slide, so I didn't need to protect with the Fluttermane this turn, because I can definitely survive at least one Rock Slide. But we're going to lose the Talonflame, but we at least get the Tailwind up this time, so it's a little bit better than the last time I faced this lead. I'm going to bring in the Tyranitar here, because I don't think Iron Bundle can do too much into a Terra Steel Great Tusk, even though it has pretty low special defense. So I think Shadow Ball should do a good amount of damage into the Great Tusk. Since it has such low special defense, and then a Rock Slide might be able to finish it off. I might need a good roll or something like that, but this will be able to cover for a Focus Sash, and also do decent damage into the Murkrow, so I won't have to take too many foul plays. I'm going to go for a Terra Flying here, just in case they try to Earthquake or something like that. I didn't feel like going after the Murkrow this turn just because it's not threatening too much damage except for that foul play into Tyranitar. They're actually just going to withdraw the Murkrow though, so I don't have to worry about that slot at least. And Iron Bundle's going to be coming in. It is the booster energy set, so it's not Focus Sash. With Shadow Ball does a lot less damage to the Great Tusk than I was expecting. It looks like this Great Tusk is probably Assault Vest, so Terra Steel, Assault Vest, Great Tusk, definitely not that scared of Flutter Mane. I can understand why my opponent let it now, which is pretty interesting. Unfortunately, this Rock Slide also misses the Iron Bundle, so we don't get any damage off into that slot. I think Rock Slide is probably a 2-hit KO. And so far, it's been pretty rough this battle, and it's still looking quite rough. I might still be in this battle if I can maybe go for an Icy Wind, and then slow down the Great Tusk. After the Icy Wind, my Tyranitar should outspeed it, and then I can maybe get the KO and stop them before they do too much damage into my team. But it does kind of rely on the Iron Bundle maybe missing, or not really going for too much damage here. But I think I will need luck to win from this position, because I'm already down 2-4. We win the Speed tie versus Iron Bundle and get the Icy Wind off. Luckily hits both my opponents and drops their speeds. If we miss the Great Tusk there, that'd be pretty bad, but they go for an Icy Wind of their own, and it does hit my Tyranitar. If they went for the Icy Wind, I would need a miss to outspeed the Great Tusk. But unfortunately we don't get it, and they're going to be able to outspeed. Get off a Rock Slide before I get the KO off on the Great Tusk. But luckily we don't flinch, so we do get that KO. But from this position, I think they can just send in the Murkrow and foul play me and freeze dry me and guarantee win. I don't think there's anything else I can do with this battle. I think to cover for the Terra Steel Great Tusk, maybe I should have brought Garchomp here. Maybe in the back over Iron Bundle. I probably should have also just attacked on turn 1, since Flutter Mane would live a Rock Slide, and if they go for Iron Head into that slot, then maybe Tonflame and Garchomp can do some work once the Terra is blown from their side. But yeah, definitely gonna just attack next time I see this lead, so GG's to my opponent. Murkrow's actually gonna go for a Sunny Day, so maybe it doesn't actually have Quash on this set, since I would imagine it also has an attacking move in Haze. And Freeze Dry is going to go first again, but barely miss out on the KO on their Iron Bundle, so they're definitely going to be able to attack. Tailwind is also going to be ending this turn, so next turn they can just go for a priority Tailwind and then Freeze Dry my Iron Bundle to guarantee win the game, so I'm going to forfeit after this turn. Maybe if the Freeze Dry got the KO and then I crit with the Rock Slide, I might have been able to win this game. So I'm glad I stuck around, but we're still going to lose, so GG's. That's going to be the last battle of the video. Ended on a rough loss, but I think the 2 close battles make up for it. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you left a like or subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on my latest videos. As a bonus for staying this long, here's what my Regulation C team looks like for now. It's super offensive, but I think it's pretty fun, and I'm excited to try it out and probably refine it as the series goes on. But until next time, bye bye.